All right, so let's dive right into this deep dive today.
Sounds good.
So you sent over some really interesting stuff about how Nestle uses market research, and it seems like they're really trying to figure out what consumers like you are thinking and wanting these days.
Yeah, they're really trying to get inside the minds of consumers,
Exactly.
see what's driving their decisions.
And the stuff you sent over highlights their strategies in three key areas, and they all have to do with market research.
Right.
So we've got this huge demand for plant-based products that's out there.
Absolutely.
We've also got this growing importance of sustainable packaging. So, people really caring about the environment and
Yeah, how companies are packaging.
exactly how companies are packaging their products. And then this ever increasing focus on health and wellness and how that plays into food choices.
Right. People want to feel good about what they're eating,
Right. Exactly.
and they want to know that it's good for them.
So what we're going to try to do today is really understand how Nestle uses this research not just to sell more stuff,
Yeah.
but to actually make their products better and really adapt to what people want.
Right. It's about innovation and staying ahead of the curve.
Exactly. And we're going to look at some specific examples so that we can all learn how a company this big,
Right.
manages to stay relevant in a world that's changing so quickly.
Yeah, the world's changing faster than ever these days.
Yeah.
And for a company like Nestle to stay on top,
Yeah.
they have to be really adaptable and responsive to consumers.
What I think is really fascinating is just how proactive they seem to be.
Yeah.
It's not just about reacting to what's already popular. They're really trying to identify those trends early
Right.
and build those insights into how they develop their products.
Yeah, that's a really smart approach. If you wait till something's already trending, you're already behind.
Yeah. You're already playing catch up.
You got to anticipate what's coming next.
Yeah. So let's jump into the first one, which is plant-based products. Your sources point out that this is a big trend, and Nestle realized this, because people are increasingly aware of the health and ethical and environmental issues.
Yeah, and it's interesting how those three factors all kind of work together.
Yeah.
You've got the health benefits of plant-based eating, you've got the ethical concerns about animal welfare,
Right.
and then you've got the environmental impact of meat production. And all of that's contributing to this really big shift in consumer demand.
What's really fascinating is that they didn't just jump on this bandwagon.
No.
They didn't just suddenly start offering plant-based options.
They really did their homework.
They actually used surveys.
Yeah, focus groups.
Held focus groups, looked at industry reports.
They wanted to really understand what people were looking for.
To really understand.
Plant-based alternatives.
Exactly.
Like what kind of products were people interested in?
Yeah.
What flavors, what textures,
Right.
what were their dietary needs?
And so they took all of that research and they created some really specific products.
Right.
We're talking about things like
Nescafé?
Nescafé with oat milk and almond milk.
Yeah, plant-based Maggie soups.
Plant-based versions of Maggie soups and noodles.
And noodles, and even a vegan KitKat.
Yeah, even a vegan KitKat bar.
And those are all really well-known brands
Right.
that people are already familiar with.
Yeah, so they weren't afraid to take those.
So by offering plant-based versions
Yep.
of these products that consumers already love,
Yeah.
they're making it easier for people to try plant-based eating
Right.
without having to step too far outside their comfort zone.
So it seems like the key takeaway here is that they were really intentional about maintaining the taste and the quality
Yes.
that people expect from those brands
Absolutely.
when they created these new options.
Because taste matters.
Right.
And if you're going to convince people to try something new,
Especially when it comes to food.
it has to taste good.
And this strategy lets them appeal not just to people who are already vegan,
But to, flexitarians,
flexitarians.
like you who might just be looking to add more plant-based foods to their diet.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to eat more plant-based meals,
Right.
but I'm not ready to give up meat entirely.
And Nestle's research showed that there's a huge market for that.
Yeah, flexitarians are a growing segment of the population.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about the packaging.
All right.
Because, it's not just about what's inside the package.
No.
Your sources really emphasize how sustainability has become a major factor in purchasing decisions.
Yeah. People are much more aware of the environmental impact of their choices these days.
Right.
And they're looking for products that are packaged sustainably.
So Nestle did their research, and they found that a lot of their customers actually prefer sustainable packaging.
Yeah.
So what did they do?
Well, they took action.
They took action.
They didn't just pay lip service to the idea.
So, for example, they developed a paper-based packaging for Smarties.
Which made them the first global confectionery brand to do so.
Back in 2021.
back in 2021.
Which is actually quite a while ago now.
And that wasn't just some random decision. It was based on what their customers said they wanted.
And that probably involved a lot of research and development.
Yeah, R&D.
To figure out how to create packaging that was both sustainable and functional.
And this was part of a bigger commitment to make all of their packaging recyclable or reusable by 2025.
Yeah, that's a big goal.
Yeah.
And it shows how seriously they're taking sustainability.
And the research shows that when companies choose environmentally friendly packaging, it can really help build loyalty and trust with consumers.
Yeah, it shows that they care about the same things that their customers care about.
And they're not just putting profits ahead of everything else.
Right. It's about values.
And Nestlé's also exploring other innovations in packaging like biodegradable materials.
Yeah, compostable material.
Compostable materials.
Things that break down naturally.
So they're really making a continuous effort in this area based on the feedback they're getting from consumers.
Right, it's an ongoing process.
Now, the third area that you highlighted in your sources is this big focus on health and wellness.
Right.
And it seems like people are really looking for lower sugar, lower fat.
Yeah, more nutritious options.
More nutritious options in general.
People are more health conscious than ever.
Right.
And they're paying more attention to what they eat.
And I've noticed it myself, even just going to the grocery store. There are so many more like low sugar options.
Low sugar options, gluten-free options.
Yeah.
Organic options.
It's really changed a lot.
It's definitely a reflection of this trend.
And Nestlé's research showed that this demand is growing, so they decided to implement a sugar reduction program across all their product lines.
That's ambitious.
Yeah, that's a huge undertaking for a company that big.
It's not easy to reduce sugar in products.
Right.
Without affecting the taste.
Exactly.
Right.
People still want their food to taste good.
So they had to come up with new recipes, new formulas.
To find that right balance.
Yeah, it's a delicate balancing act.
So they've been reformulating their existing products to reduce sugar and salt.
Yeah.
But they've also been introducing new products that are fortified with vitamins and minerals.
So they're trying to cater to a wider range of nutritional needs.
Exactly.
And dietary preferences.
And your sources give some specific examples of this.
Yeah.
Like reducing the sugar in their dairy products and increasing the fiber in their breakfast cereals.
Right.
And this just really shows how they're directly responding to what consumers want.
Yeah, they're listening to their customers.
And it seems like the big goal here is to help people live healthier lives without having to sacrifice flavor or enjoyment.
Yeah, people want to be healthy.
Right.
But they don't want to feel like they're depriving themselves.
And ultimately, it helps Nestlé build a reputation as a company that cares about people's well-being.
Yeah, that's really important for building trust with consumers.
Right.
And long-term loyalty.
So when we zoom out and look at the big picture, what does this all mean? Your sources suggest that Nestlé's success is really tied to their ability to adapt to these changing consumer preferences.
Right.
And they're using market research to do that.
In today's market, you have to be adaptable.
Right.
If you're not listening to your customers, you're going to fall behind.
And this approach has allowed them to move into new categories.
Right.
They're not just sticking with what they've always done.
They're constantly innovating.
Right. They're always trying to find the next big thing.
And they're using market research to guide them.
And their commitment to sustainability is another example of how they're using research to stay ahead.
Absolutely.
It's not just about making money anymore. It's about doing what's right for the planet.
And consumers are rewarding companies that are taking sustainability seriously.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
it's
really clear that understanding what consumers want, whether it's plant-based options, sustainable packaging, or healthier foods,
it's not just about following trends.
It's about using that information to shape their business.
Right.
And the fact that a company this big is putting so much effort into understanding what you want shows just how powerful consumer feedback can be.
Consumers have a lot of power these days.
Right.
Their choices can really drive change.
So I want to leave you with this question to think about. How do your own choices as a consumer influence the companies you interact with? It's a constant feedback loop, and your choices matter.
Every time you buy something, you're sending a message to the companies that make those products.
And those messages add up, and they can really make a difference.
So think about what you want to support
with
your purchases.
What kind of future do you want to create?
Yeah, because you're voting with your wallet every time you spend money.
That's a great way to put it.
Thanks.
Well, that's it for our deep dive today.
That was fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how a company like Nestlé is using market research to adapt and evolve.
Yeah, they're really trying to stay ahead of the curve.
And it's a great example for other companies to follow.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining me.
It was my pleasure.
And thanks to all of you for listening.
We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.